people, welcome back to the show and welcome back to another edition of Pokemon Thursday, the day of the week where we just talk all about how everybody is constantly disrespecting my authority. Just like my boy. Everybody's just, every time people see me, there is no authority being fucking respected. So for the next 27 minutes, I'm going to sit here in silence until you find out the respecter I deserve. I want the respecter, but when I realise how fucking massive my forehead looks, no wonder I don't get respecter. I'm only joking, of course, as well. Once again, ring ding ding-a-dling. And we're not here for whatever the fuck that was. We're here for more Pokemon shenanigans. We're here for another Pokemon team, a comic book characters Pokemon team. And this week, our good friend of the channel, especially the last few months, who's just been chatting so much and we're getting to know this person quite well in the comments. Thomas has decided to give us a character, a comic book character that I knew literally, virtually, in fact, not even virtually, nothing about, who did come from the world of comics. We're going to talk about Rom, the Space Knight, and more specifically, we're going to give Rom, the Space Knight, his very own Pokemon team. So I had to do a little bit of mini research. A little bit of research just to find out who Rom is, some sort of character traits, abilities, a bit of backstory, just so I could try and find a decent team. Now, because this is a character you recommended, I highly am anticipating an education in the comments of you saying, this Pokemon would have worked better, that Pokemon would have done this, you know, all that kind of shit. You will, because it's a character you know vastly more superiorly than me, I'm expected to be educated here in the comments. But still, I was excited to do it. We actually got our first, I think this is our first ever character recommendation. I could be wrong, but I think it is. Of the team. So it's all about Rom the Space Knight. Now, if you are intrigued on who Rom the Space Knight is, I do have a couple of little factoids. Rom the Space Knight, Space Knight? Rom the Space Knight actually started off as a toy, like a toy before he became a comic book character that's going to play into one of our team selections. But he started off as a little toy, as a little doll, and then they eventually went to the comics. And he was in Marvel. There's a few missing gaps here, but this is on the Wikipedia and I can't find any more. But he started off in Marvel, well, the toy, then Marvel had a run with him from 1979 to 1986. Then he went off to IDW. I don't know where he, because it says 2016 to 2020. So I don't know where he was from 86 to 2016. Not a clue. And then now he resides again back from Marvel, but in Marvel Comics from the 2023 to the present. So he's still kicking about in Marvel. Maybe we'll see him in a future project, a new run. I did see this wiki. He had tangled a few times. You know, there were a couple of team ups with Avengers and shit. But still, I know fucking nothing about this character. So it was quite cool to do. But are we ready, visuals? Sit back, relax. Hopefully you've got your coffee somewhere. Ours is over there. I can't be asked to go get it. And let's go give Rom, the Space Knight, his very own Pokemon team. Now, kicking things off straight away, we need to give a space Pokemon to Rom. Oh, it was a dog dropping the ball. Thought it was at the door. We need to give him his own space-themed Pokemon. Now, I've gone for Lunatone. Now, there's a few space-themed Pokemon I could have gone for. Any of the Arceus-related shenanigans because they're God, space, and all that kind of shit. I could have went for like a Clefairy with all the moon and shit, but a Deoxys. But I thought, no, I wanted to go for, again, from me not knowing this character, but I wanted to imagine there was maybe an issue or a storyline somewhere where Rom's going through space and there's just a load of Lunatone and maybe there's like a stranded one or a lost one. And for me, the moon, even though the sun's in space, the moon always represents space more than the sun does for me. This being a representation of the moon. But just Rom going along in one issue, you know, whatever it is he's doing, and he bumps into a load of Lunatone, but, you know, one gets left behind or one's stranded somewhere, and he tries to get it back, but it's like, I want to stay with you, and he, you know, makes him sort of his first kind of partner Pokemon. You know, he also mythically, whatever the word is, finds a Pokeball, catch it, and Lunatone becomes his first partner Pokemon. So we got our first little space Pokemon with our little Space Knight, and it is Lunatone. One of the key features of Rom's sort of wicked abilities and stuff was he's very good at self-repair, self-fixing, you know, re-healing from injury. And I thought, okay, who's the self-healer Pokemon? But it's obviously, it's for me, the big image is Chansey and Blissey. But I didn't want to give him a Chansey. I wanted to give him a Blissey. So I thought, yeah, we're going to give him a Blissey. For whatever reason, maybe they go on a mission, they're doing something, there's been a big battle, there's been a big war, and at the end of it, they've won, and he's going to help repair himself and sort himself out and any other sort of mechanical aid that people need. There might be some other robots, there might be some other whatever out there, and he's welding shit back together. But there's also might be some biological creatures out there that need some self-repair and healing and shit like that. So he'll come out with his Blissey. Because like I said, from what I could tell, Rom the Space Knight seems like a very genuine sort of help. I want to do the best thing and help everybody I can kind of character. I could be wrong on that because like I said, I don't know the deep lore. And I thought you'd come along with a Blissey. Blissey would come out and help, you know, tend to the people that, you know, an alien that's got a bit of a gash in a leg or, you know, bleeding out from the fucking head or some shit, and Blissey sat there bandaging and whatnot. But because that's one of his core features, I wanted to embody it in the form of one of his Pokemon. Blissey, the healing Pokemon, Rom the Space Knight, self-healing. It's all about the healing. I wanted to give him a Night Pokemon. There is so many different versions of Night, as in like Knight in Shining Armor Pokemon. Obviously, with his name being Rom, the Space Knight. I wanted to give him a Night Pokemon, and I've gone for Cerulege purely because, like I said, there was a lot of other ones I could go for. But it's the armor aspect, but it's also Cerulege being a ghost and sort of, you know, not sort of dark type, but, you know, dark and, you know, darkness of space and all that kind of shit. And I can just picture it in my head, again, from the few comic covers that I've seen of Rom, like a back-to-back of, you know, Rom and Cerulege, sort of back-to-back, ready to help out. I could also see this in a world where maybe Rom goes somewhere, maybe there's a planet of Cerulege somewhere, or, you know, because we're talking about the multiverse and space and shit, there could be a planet full of Cerulege for all we know. And he gets there, but they think he's like someone come to attack, and they kind of start off warring with each other, and then they kind of realize, hang on a sec, he's here to help, and you're only there because you're defending. You think, and they have like this great sort of little team up partnership, and they spend an issue fighting off some other kind of threat, and at the end of it, you know, Rom's like, everybody's safe, everybody good, I'm glad we're all right now. You know, I'll come back and help out if you need to, see you later. And this one Cerulege like, no, you've helped defend my planet. I want to go help defend other places around the universe and around the galaxy with you. So I want to be part of your team. Again, he's not going to say this. He's going to do it in the normal Pokemon voice, Cerulege, sort of shit. So he gets himself a Cerulege, and Cerulege is going to help him to become another version of a Space Knight. Cerulege, the Space Knight, teaming up with Rom, the Space Knight. And I like that one. I think it works really cool. Rom the Space Knight, I needed a Pokemon to replicate the sort of robot-y mechanical side of things, and I've gone for Genesect. Now, I don't actually know. I did see somewhere that it said that Rom the Space Knight at one point was a human, but I didn't see any other sort of stuff backing it up. So I don't know if he was a human that got turned into Rom the Space Knight or what. But we know that there's theories and whatnot about Genesect being made and, you know, tampered with, and he was forced to be this way and shit. So I thought I wanted to go for something that might share a similar backstory. Plus, I needed someone to just sort of look robot-y and cool and badass side by side with him. Like I said, go back to a cool comic book cover and just see Rom the Space Knight and Genesect back-to-back blasting away and doing all that kind of shit. And I've also given him a shiny one. Why the fuck not? Rom the Space Knight can have himself a nice shiny Genesect. Plus, there's also this sort of weird thing about, right, okay, so I will go into it a bit more, but there's, you know, we know that there's a theory of Kabutops being like a modified and then it turned into Genesect fossil shit. I will go down the fossil route sec, and so I don't actually know how old Genesect is, and I know that Rom the Space Knight, again, I'll get to it in a sec, it said at one point he'd been around space for 200 years, space, all that kind of weird shit. I'll talk way more into the next Pokemon for my reasons why. But yes, Genesect, robot, potentially ancient, team up, could have been manipulated from something into a robot, maybe potentially like Rom the Space Knight. Plus, they just make for a cool, badass comic book cover. I'll try and explain myself what I meant from Genesect just then. So I've gone for Dragozolt, right? Okay. So I wanted a weird sort of ancient thing. I wanted something old. The fossils are old in Pokemon. He'd been around space from what I'd seen for 200 years, and it was part of his wiki said. And I liked the idea of, I don't know if anybody saw Adam Driver's 65, was it called 65 million or just 65? Film that came out a couple of years back, where he's going around space and he goes to this planet and it's full of dinosaurs, and then eventually gets off the planet, and it turns out that planet he was on was actually our planet, and then eventually went on to go, you know, be all the humans and shit and buildings and stuff. But I like the idea that maybe Rom was going around space at this one point, and he crash landed on a planet that was like Jurassic and all this shit and dinosaurs and what. I was thinking, what the fuck's this kind of crazy carry on? And this, I went for a Dragozolt because I feel like it would be curious and it would look at me like, what the fuck's going on here? And it would seem, I know if they went back to the actual world, it wouldn't be Dragozolt as it is now. It would be how it should normally be. It's because of the weird splicing shit that humans have done, putting two fossils together. Or maybe we could do that Maybe we could change the story that Rom gets to this Jurassic World and he's like, what the fuck, there's a T-Rex and a fucking long neck and Triceratops and that. And as he's getting off the planet for whatever battle he's been doing, he sees like a few fossils and he just sort of picks up gear. Like, he's like, oh, I can see some sort of biological life in these, or at some point, well, what's this all about? And he gets two of them and he gets it back on a ship, and away he scans, puts it together. He's like, oh my fucking god, we've just made a fossil Pokemon. It's this weird electric fucking thing with a massive tail and back legs and shit. And I like the idea of trying to implement, like I said, that Adam Driver 65 film in sort of Rom's sort of story. Because again, I'm just thinking of space, the weird places you go to the end of the universe, the end of the galaxy. There could be weird planets by dinosaurs. You could go all the way there and end up at the start of time and shit. I don't know how space works, but I like the idea of adding that sort of 65 million years, whatever the fucking film's called, story into Rom's team build. And finally, I've gone for Bonette. Now, you might be thinking, why the fuck has he got a random ghost Pokemon? That's a bit strange. Now, I wanted to honour the fact that he was originally a toy inside of, his world. He was a toy, then he went into comics and whatnot. And there's not really a toy Pokemon. And I thought, okay, so what's the closest thing I get to? And then I remembered about the Bonette story, like, I don't know if it's all Bonettes, I think it's most, or just some, but like they'll inhabit like abandoned toys or abandoned plushies or abandoned whatnot, and this ghost will inhabit it, and it will become a Bonette. And I like the idea that maybe when he was on Earth, he did get really famous, he left Earth, and then he come back to Earth, and maybe Earth's been destroyed or whatever, and he sees like these, like a toy shop with all these old figures of him or some shit, and he's like, oh, this is crazy. And then he leaves again, but during as he's leaving, a spirit has been waiting for somebody, and it embodies one of these little figures, and then it comes to life in the form of a Bonette, and he's like, oh, what the fuck, it's a bit weird. So I like the idea of, like I said, or maybe you go to a dystopian world or a parallel universe where there has been some kickoffs, but like his original toy figure was inhabited by a spirit, the spirit of like a child who used to love it, the figure of Rom, something like that, and it eventually went up to be a Bonette. And then it lets him come with it because, like I said, everything about Rom so far from what I've seen seems innocent and wanted to help and do the right thing. And he would, again, take it on board and make it part of his team. Plus, I think it's quite cool and unique to see you up against this big robot and Space Knight dude, and he's chucking out ghost type and shit. It would throw you off because when I see him, I'm thinking, okay, we're going to go steel, we're going to go electric, and he's chucking out this ghost type. And I think, what the fuck? I haven't set my team up right for this whatsoever. So yeah, I like Bonette inhabiting an old Rom toy, and then away we go, blah, 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 part of his team. And there we have it, visuals. That is my team for Rom the Space Knight. I thank you once again, Thomas, for giving us a shout out there and giving us a recommendation and whatnot. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, definitely, because I want to know if you think I've made some good picks there, if there's any some big bits of lore that I've missed that I should have added to give it a different team and whatnot. But I really like that. It was cool as fuck, and it was fun doing a character that I knew absolutely fuck all about. But it was fun getting to know him and getting to learn about him and shit, because he's a character I will be looking out more. Now, if he does ever get referenced in a film, or he might have already been referenced in a film and it's just gone right over my head, if he comes into something like, I know that because of Thomas and shit like that. So I think that's really badass and cool and amazing. But hopefully you like his team, but I want to see your team in the comments. And there we have it, visuals. That was another Pokemon team. This week was for Rom the Space Knight. If there is a character, a creature, or whatever it is, as long as they come from the world of comics, it doesn't matter if it's a comic book made out by Disney, have done some shit with Mickey Mouse shit, or Transformers, IDW, Dark Horse, The Walking Dead. It doesn't matter what it is. Let me know in the comments below. We will try our hardest to get it done. And give us a few weeks as well, because you would have commented on this video, and then this video would have went up, but I'd already had like 2 or 3 videos pre-recorded before. So just patience is a virtue, okay? But thank you so much once again, you beautiful lunch. You beautiful lunch. I'm going to eat you all. You bit of my fucking lunch. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are literally the fucking best. That's been another edition of Pokemon Thursday, another team for a comic book character. And remember to always keep being you and keep on keeping on.